think about we're not the sum of our differences, especially if it's divorced people with children. The thing that would be cool is that everybody who's in the process of getting divorced, but absolutely loves their children, can say to their soon-to-be former or former spouse, at least look at their kids and go, you know what? We made them, and let's not make them miserable. But we made them. They are human beings on earth taking part in the beauty of existence, and we made them, and there's that. And we made them when we loved each other. And sometimes adults stop loving each other, but they don't stop loving their children. And let's not make it difficult for them to love us and themselves, and leave it at that.
Yeah, that's the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Divorce and Conquer. I'm your host, Joe Staszak. I'd like to welcome back one of the premier therapists in all the land. He was my former hockey coach, current mentor, life coach, whatever you want to call him. He spews nothing but wisdom, at least when that red light is on. Bob Anderson, welcome back, my friend.
Thank you very much. I'm a compendium of my mistakes.
I'll have to look that up. Before I get going on the theme today, Bob, this is going to air most likely 3 days before Christmas, our launch. People that are going through divorce problems, marital problems right now, maybe heading for divorce. I did this last year. Listen, you're not going to fix it in 3 days. It's like, you can't hit a grand slam down 4 with no one on base. I would say, and I've told this to my listening audience before, hey, listen, just put the weapons down for now. Do the best you can to enjoy the Christmas. There's no downside to enjoying the holiday, or at least trying to, put a good face on it. We actually put a real good face on a legitimate face last year. Did go south after that, but at least it made everything great for the holiday, at least. Is that something you would suggest?
I'm sorry, what is the question?
Putting your differences aside, your weapons down, at least, it's 3 days before Christmas. This airs December 22nd. Happy holidays, everybody.
Well, I think Christmas is the time where, the subject is gratitude. And what gratitude is about appreciating what you might take for granted, the things that you really have. And I think people don't really talk about the gratitude of memory, because memory takes perspective. And if you're having a family holiday where, of course, kids get injured, lying around and their head hits the coffee table, and people get into fights and grudges go on and people drink too much, all that kind of stuff. How do you put differences aside? Well, if you come in hot to any sort of family get together, and that heat is personal, and what you have in your mind is what I can't forgive, and you're in the season of giving and forgiveness, then you need to kind of check that attitude. And what should you do? What you should do is say, as you suggested, I cannot resolve my differences, our differences, but think about we're not the sum of our differences, especially if it's divorced people with children. The thing that would be cool is that everybody who's in the process of getting divorced, but absolutely loves their children, can say to their soon-to-be former spouse, at least look at their kids and go, you know what? We made them, and let's not make them miserable. But we made them. They are human beings on earth taking part in the beauty of existence, and we made them, and there's that. And we made them when we loved each other. And sometimes adults stop loving each other, but they don't stop loving their children. And let's not make it difficult for them to love us and themselves, and leave it at that, which is so much to ask. Sounds simple on paper, right? Let's not make it difficult for them. Let them love themselves. Let them not make it difficult. Let's not make it difficult for them to love us. And let's be civil, not for the children, but because we made them when there was something. And for us to go forward, no matter how things go, we need to remember that we made them.
And there's a, Camilla, just a little bit closer. You see, there is a price tag you can put on the gifts under the tree, Bob. But I want to go back to something you said because, and I always say this, sometimes people spend money on cars, spend money on material things, and then others spend money on vacations because those do what? They create memories. And a former colleague of mine, Hall of Fame broadcaster Doc Emmerich, said a long time ago when he was first starting out, I'll never forget it. It was after the Flyers Edmonton series in 1987. He was leading into the montage, the end of the year piece. Flyers lost in 7 games. One of God's greatest gifts is memory. So you can either make bad memories in the next 3 days, or you can make memories that, hey, if it doesn't resolve itself, afterwards or whatever, but you still have those memories. I mean, it's a choice, right? It's a choice.
Well, I think if you've got divorced people that are a family get together Christmas, you'd be foolish not to think that your children are looking at you as if you were under a microscope. So what you say and what you do matters.
Tremendously.
And matters. And I suppose I don't know anything about this firsthand, about being a child where the parents are divorced. But I think if what I could look at is I want to be able to look at my mother and my father. I'm not looking at my mother's ex-husband or my father's ex-wife. I'm looking at my mother and my father. If I'm a daughter, I have one example of how an adult female should act, especially under pressure. If I'm a son, I'm looking at how my male role model acts under pressure. Is there some greater pressure than being divorced at a holiday get together with the kids? I realize it's a first world problem, right, as they say, but that's tremendous pressure. So with gratitude, there has to be grace. You have to be, and I don't mean like amazing grace. I mean that.
Do you need to get that? Are we interrupting you?
I just forgot.
You're okay? Okay.
So here's what you do when you're doing it. So I think that because they're looking for how you're going to behave under pressure, you don't want to go like, well, we need to put on a front face for the kids, because that doesn't fool the kids. The kids are busy putting on front faces for each other in school and in social events and as athletes all the time. They want you to be real. And part of that is being dignified and civil and grateful for the fact that there was a time when out of love came these kids. And these kids go, you know what? My mom is being the best possible grown adult woman she could possibly be under these circumstances. My dad is being the best possible grown up man he can be under these circumstances. I'm grateful for that. So I think if you go into it saying, I want our kids in this difficult situation to be grateful that they have parents that can conduct themselves this way, which means they can come to weddings, they can come to graduations, all these things that are in my future. I can count on my parents coming and being just like this. And hopefully I reach the point where nobody who hasn't met them would know they're divorced. And then I come from good people who just couldn't stay married.
A guy I've done some work with, former coach of Villanova University, Jay Wright, his thing is all about attitude. It's the Villanova attitude. It's about attitude. It's about how you carry yourself. It's kind of like when we talk about Conestoga hockey. It's our thing, and maybe you wouldn't understand unless you're part of that thing. Same with Villanova basketball. I think gratitude is an attitude, and there have been many studies that talk about how it can you can really reap some benefits from it physically, mentally, emotionally, makes you healthier. This was an article that came out when we were talking about it right around Thanksgiving. Want to start feeling happier? Brush up on your gratitude. Do you think gratitude is an attitude? And how do some people that don't appear that way, they'd rather see the glass half empty. How do we kind of change the thought process that eventually then will change the behavior?
Well, the things that you know best, have you chosen to learn them, or they were just there?
Some are innate, some are absolutes, and some I've learned.
Well, so there might be some people who are innately grateful.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's true.
That's true.
So those people can learn how to be more grateful.
Mm-hmm.
For those people where it is not a gift, where it is not innate, they can learn to be grateful because that's a choice. It's hard to learn how to be thoughtful and kind. Usually it's
Is it?
something, well, I think it's something that's probably there or it's in your environment and you've seen examples and you've been encouraged and you find it's its own reward. Gratitude is at the top of that list of its own reward. I would think over the course of time, if you were going to take those qualities, say loyalty, honor, kindness, thoughtfulness, gratitude, the thing that you could probably learn the best and most continuously over the course of your life, connected to memories, as you spoke about before, would be to learn how to be grateful. Because that means you're learning who you are, you're accepting who you are. Gratitude is not just things are wonderful, it means you take the flaws and you're even grateful for the bad experiences you had that made you a better person. So it's the most all encompassing of, it's not really an emotion and it's not really a thought. It doesn't come from any place you can find on an x-ray. But I think if you dedicate yourself to being grateful, then you're going to be kind and thoughtful and forgiving. All of those things will come from gratitude rather than build them up and then one day you'll be grateful.
Talk about that. You change your thought process and your behavior will follow. Let me ask you something, because we're talking about relationships. We don't always just talk about the divorce portal, but in a relationship, we're talking about gifts, gift giving, gift receiving at this time. In a relationship, what's the most important gift? I'm not talking about material.
So I'd say the
give
greatest, I mean, this sounds like a cliche, but the greatest present is presence.
being
People
present.
are lonely because other people are not with them.
You mean on their phone and doing something else when they're supposed to be watching a show together or talking to them? They're just not quite there because they're elsewhere. They're in the mind.
They could be not with them because they could be sitting there without a phone or a distraction, but still have a lot of noise in their head. The noise of impulsivity, the noise of regret, the noise of the endless checklist of what they need to have done, or the unresolved anger at their boss who humiliated them in front of coworkers. The idea of being present with somebody is, I want to be with that person at whatever level they're at and I'm at, just because. There's no reason for it, but I just want to be present. What do kids want to do? Daddy, look at this. Mommy, look at this. Or grandpa, hey, look, let me show you that I can do this. Not what I got for Christmas, what I figured out, or my painting, or something I made in the mud, because they want to share wonder and discovery and imagination with a particular person. I think if you're not present with somebody, you don't find anything new from them. And then what happens? Things start stagnating, and
it's complacency.
are you not listening to them because you're on your phone, or on your phone because you're not listening to them?
Because you've checked out?
Because you've checked out. And
how do you not check out? Because this is somewhat just kind of the way sometimes it goes, the process, the normal process, the evolution of a relationship. The things that were adorable and endearing and charming and cute in the beginning, they can maybe turn into things that are annoying down the road.
We live in an age where you check in and check out. You need to let that go. You need to leave that alone. You need to move on. Like the response to the cliched response, the cultural response to conflict is to just walk away from it. Is to not. No one says you should probably resolve that.
You mean fight or flight? When you say walk away, you mean for good, or in that moment, leave the room?
Although Sigmund Freud first talked about this, I would imagine you'd agree that this is certainly the age of the pleasure principle in terms of everything being done to increase pleasure and reduce pain. So we walk away and we check out anything that's painful for something that's either neutral or might be more pleasurable. So nobody wants to have pain. No one wants to have discomfort. There was no such thing as helicopter parents in my day, or hovering, or putting kids in a bubble, or that kind of thing. And what that is fear of the world confronting my kid. Well, that lasts long enough until the world confronts your kid all at once and they have no experience solving their own problems. I think I'd want to have my children say, our dad was always there, meaning he wasn't always physically there because he couldn't be,
Sure.
but he was always present. If I had a problem, I could come to him and he could be present with my problem, because that's empathy is about being present. So if you're going to check out from people, they know you don't care. Kids especially. You cannot fool a kid into thinking you're caring.
Mm-hmm.
The men out there, I would tell you, if you think you can fool a woman into thinking you're caring, good luck with that. First of all, not even good luck with that, because it's dishonest.
Right.
It's not going to happen. And the same goes the other way. We can tantalize, we can confuse, we can get people to fall in love with what we believe they need, but you can't fool people as to whether you care or not. If you're a hockey coach, your players know whether you care, and you can pound on them and demand things from them and try to pull stuff out of them. If they know you care, they'll let you do that. If they know you don't care or it's about you, you won't get production out of talented players. So the greatest present is presence. If I want to do something with my daughter on her birthday, I go, not on her birthday, because that means her sorority sisters and her husband and stuff are doing things. But I do, so let's just pick a day where we are just together. So what do? Maybe we go to the outlets, maybe we eat, maybe we take a walk, maybe we take a drive, maybe we go to the movies, maybe it's all of those things. But it's just us. And let's have our day. And then I'm present in that day. I know she feels better, and I really feel better. Why? Because it's just like it always was. And that's what happens in marriage. People lose that feeling of it's just like it always was. Though we see people who are 85 years old, been married for 55 years, and you see them and you go, wow, they look like they're still dating, because that time in each other's presence is exactly what it always was like. You think they didn't work at it?
Sure.
It's not magic.
It's work. Now, which is another good segue, because on this show, it's all about commitment. It's not just commitment to the relationship, commitment to yourself, commitment to others, commitment maybe to God, to fulfill, or at least to take the gifts you've been given to their max level. Now, let me ask you, my friend, because I listened to you talk about, and this guy coached me 40 years ago. Since then, there's other players I've never heard of that you talk about. Now you coach the girls at Conestoga. The ones that you talk about the most are the ones that maybe aren't the most talented, don't have all the gifts, they may not have the skill sets. But man, you rave about the ones that just go out and leave it all on the ice, go balls out. And who would you rather coach? Because folks, we're all not gifted with, the ultimate gene set or the ultimate DNA, and certain people are just more talented. But the thing you can control is how much you prepare for something, how hard you work at something. It's the great equalizer. You left a note in my locker 40 years ago. Talent beats hard work. Hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard. Which kind of kid would you rather coach?
I want to coach the kid that has it. And I don't mean athletics is just what I get to see of the substance they have. They have substance. They have something to them that needs to be expressed, where hockey or baseball is just the avenue or the domain for that expression. But what I really love is when they're putting it all out there, they're free. That's them being free. They're not, doing chores. They're not doing their homework. They're not doing what's expected of them. They're in the flow of just being themselves. And I look for the kid who says, I'm doing this for the other 17. And when they have that, when they express that, they're not going to back down. So you'll get every bit of their talent. I can think of one guy who was the most talented player I had, who was like that, who was just had exquisite skills and did everything for everybody else. And after this I've been in this game for 55 years and I've seen one guy. So I look for the person who, for the love of playing, of competing, of being part of something bigger than them, will put everything out there because they're not afraid to do so.
And I always tend to, since I come from a sports background, there are parallels in sports and life and relationships. So would you say that's a bit of advice you'd give to folks in a relationship that to make it work, it's doing something for the greater good, something bigger than the sum of the parts?
I think if you're with somebody who doesn't realize that everything is bigger than them, I mean, the world is
We're very self-absorbed.
well, but that's a way to remain safe and have
Yes.
things to break things down to where they make sense. If you realize how tiny and insignificant any of us are on the planet,
Sure.
it would be overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that if I have any modest gifts, one of them is that I can see who I can get something out of for their benefit. It would just work like that. See someone who I can get something out of for their benefit for now and then forever. Because what will happen is they'll somehow become the person evolved to be the person who will see that in somebody else. And then that person they help will see it in somebody else.
Sure.
And that's how that's how the good guys have to keep going to push against the folks whose reward is, I use people to make my life better. Instead of people who say, I'm here to make use of myself to make other people's lives better. We need to have more than that. And excellence in something like an athletic career. Albert Pujols is a rare example, but he's all washed up and physically done at age 43. He's 43. And
He made a run to the 700 club this year when
he did.
a huge run. People were projecting that sometime into the middle of next year. He did it, and he did it with something to spare.
But 60, 70% of the 50-year-olds in this country will be able to move around and enjoy their lives physically much more than he will at age 50.
Right.
Because he put it all out there
Sure.
from age 18 to 43, and now it's used up. So those kinds of things are in the short run. And if you're going to be the kind, thoughtful, grateful person, you're only going to get better at it. Age isn't going to get in the way. I'm a way better person at helping other people at 70 than I was at 30.
You're 70. You look good. You look good.
That's genetics, right?
The only human being on the planet, come in a little bit, to be inducted into Conestoga Hockey Hall of Fame. He became immortal on September 23rd, the great Bob Anderson, but he's even a better person and a better therapist. Been doing it a quarter of a century, renowned, one of the most renowned therapists in our area. Bob, appreciate it. Want to say happy holidays to the folks out there?
I hope your holidays are a time when you can be happy and content.
Bob Anderson, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Joe Staszak. Thanks for watching or listening, both maybe, to another episode of Divorce and Conquer. You can reach out to me personally on my Facebook page, Joe Staszak, or my Facebook group page, Divorce and Conquer, or hit me up on my website, divorceandconquer.com. Remember,
I don't have time to say one more.
Go ahead.
The last thing I want to say is this. Ask yourself this question. Did the best advice you ever receive fall upon deaf ears? That's the point of being present.
Great stuff. Happy holidays, my friend. Merry Christmas to you all out there. Enjoy yourselves. God bless. Be safe. Do the right thing. Talk to you next time.